Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Killen from Docere Clinics, and today I'm going to talk about how stress can kill your sex life. So we all know that stress is bad for us, right? It can harm our body in all kinds of ways. But stress is really, really bad for sex. It's bad because it makes you not interested in having sex, it affects your libido, and it actually affects your body's ability to respond appropriately. And there are several different reasons for that. So the first one is that high cortisol, which happens when you're under a lot of stress, affects the way that your body makes sex hormones. So cortisol is a major hormone that's supposed to be made when you're really stressed out. If you're being chased by a tiger in the woods, you're supposed to be running and the cortisol goes up and your adrenaline goes up and you're super scared. And that is supposed to happen occasionally. And then your levels go back down as you go back to camp and you're making baskets and you're hanging out with your family. That's kind of how it's supposed to be. But now we're all under such stress all the time. We always feel like we're being chased by that tiger. So our cortisol is always up, our adrenaline is always up. So what does that do? Well, when cortisol is high, it decreases your body's ability to make other hormones like progesterone and testosterone and estrogen, which are your major sex hormones, which make you interested in having sex. So that's one thing, is you're not making those hormones to begin with, so you don't really have a lot of interest. Other things that happen are that when you're really stressed out, when you have a lot of cortisol, you're not sleeping well, and sleep is actually really important for sex. So during sleep, while you're asleep, is when other hormones are made. So things like growth hormone and testosterone are made when you're sleeping, and those are really important for everything from the way that your body is maintained, being able to lose weight, gain muscle, to mood, to kind of everything throughout your day. So that's really important as well. Other things that can happen when you have high cortisol and you have this sort of sympathetic fight or flight response, you actually lose the ability to have sex. So if you think about it, it makes sense. Like if you're being chased by a tiger and you're running, all your blood is diverting to your muscles and to your heart and to your brain in lieu of going to other organs like your sexual organs or your digestive tract. So from a biologic and sort of evolutionary standpoint, it doesn't make sense that you'd be having sex and making babies while you're running from a tiger. So if you think about it now, we're always running from tigers all the time because we're always stressed out. And so it actually doesn't make sense to be able to have sex. And so you lose erections, you don't have vaginal lubrication, all of that just because you're stressed out all the time. Stress also is going to affect your relationships. It's going to affect the way that you interact with your partner. Maybe you're not a very nice person because you're super stressed out, and that's going to affect the way that you guys interact with each other. That's another way that it affects it. And then we also know that high stress over time affects us emotionally. So people who have a lot of stress are more prone to have depression and anxiety. They're more prone to have problems with self-esteem. And of course, if you're depressed, if you have low self-esteem, if you don't feel good about your body, you're not going to be willing to take off clothes and be naked in front of anybody. So there's actually a lot of ways that stress affects sex, and it's really important. I think it's something that we don't think about all the time, but it can affect everything from your interest in sex to your body's ability to actually be able to have sex. So obviously this is a big problem. So what can we do about it? What can we do to reduce our stress? So it turns out that it's not so much about what's going on in the world around you. It's more about how you are interacting with those external stimuli. So obviously we all have things in our lives that could make us very stressed out, but it's how we react to those things that really affects what's happening internally and how much cortisol is being released and how our body is adapting to it. So things like meditation and adding mindfulness to our day, doing gratitude journaling, working on your breath, doing breath work, going on long walks, or things that can kind of help to relax you, are all things that sound a little bit sort of hocus pocus, but they actually are really helpful in helping you be able to deal with the external stimuli that you don't have a lot of control over, but you can deal with the internal way that you're looking at the world, and that affects the way that your cortisol and other hormones are made. So meditation it was always scary to people. It's kind of difficult because basically it involves kind of quieting your mind, like turning off sort of all these racing thoughts that we have all the time. But what's the benefit of that? So if you can do that, if you can quiet your mind, then we actually see that your brain responds differently. You can actually have changes in the neural pathways and nerve pathways in your brain, you can create healthier pathways and new pathways just by quieting your mind with meditation and things like that. So it's definitely something that has to be learned. It takes practice, but it can make a huge difference in all aspects of your life and health, and something that I recommend to all my patients. So click below to find out how healthy your sex life actually is. There's a quiz here, and you can take the quiz and you can find out all kinds of things about yourself.